Why is it that there are so many people who will claim that the Bible is important, who, like, they will go ahead and say that they believe the Bible, they trust the Bible, they aim to live their lives by the Bible, but they don't actually read the Bible. They don't crack it open and read it for themselves. And I think it boils down to a misconception that we think only certain people can get into it, or only certain people can understand it. And it's people like me. It's those weird intellectual Bible nerds that are the only ones who can get into this stuff. And it doesn't make sense because we don't think that about anything else. Like, we understand that if it's a musical instrument, I'm going to take guitar, all right? I can't play guitar, but I think it's cool. And like, the person who enjoys it and gets the most satisfaction out of guitar is the person who has spent lots and lots of time, tons of hours, probably years of practice and playing and getting better and learning stuff. And if you pick it up and try to start out, at first you get a couple little things and it's kind of fun, and usually learn how to play one song and like, yeah, this is cool. But then real quickly you're going to hit up against the point where it's not just an easy goof around fun, and it's going to take some work to actually get good. And this is not just guitar, this is true with any kind of hobby, skill, anything that you're learning. You'll quickly get to where it takes work. It takes discipline and sticking with it, and probably, maybe getting some instruction, whether that's actual lessons or coaching, or if it's, reading books about it or finding YouTube videos, but you have to get something to help you move forward. But then as you push through that, and as you put in time and put in work and you develop, that's what becomes the person who actually enjoys it the most. The person who, like, gets the most delight and satisfaction out of, like, playing basketball, or out of writing or painting or whatever it could be, is the person who has done it a lot. The person who's put time in it and has kind of made this a thing they do, and it's almost like a second nature to them, that they can really just engage in it and flow with it. That's how you have that guy who does, can tear off on this amazing guitar solo that's not something he ever rehearsed, hasn't played it before, but like, it just is a thing that flows from you because you've worked at it. We get that with other things, with sports and hobbies, but somehow we don't think the Bible can do that, but it does. There's also the idea that, like, we don't want to put in that time. We don't think we can do that because we think it's too hard, it's too awkward, like, it doesn't make sense. But again, this is another thing that we understand in other books and movies and stories and stuff. Like, when you have some great movie that has this shocking twist at the end, and it makes you kind of want to go back and watch it again, and as you're rewatching, you see so many things that you didn't notice the first time, that are like foreshadowing events that come later, and it's like, oh my gosh, he totally said that, and then that is what happened. And we're used to that kind of stuff, and we call that good writing. Well, it turns out God's a good writer too, and he did that in the Bible, and there's so much to it. I remember a conversation that, man, it had to be well over 15 years ago at this point, but I was talking about this kind of stuff with somebody, and man, the Bible makes so much more sense the second time you read it. And now, since then, I can say, like, each time the more you keep reading, the more sense it makes. It's it's like the stuff that we see in, like, the Marvel movies, where they do what they call Easter eggs. That there's a lot of little things, there's references that maybe it's this little line that doesn't actually apply to the plot all that much, but it totally references some background thing of that character that's not even in the movie, has nothing to do with the movie, but it references, like, an old storyline from a comic. Or there will be things in the background that's like, oh, this is totally another character from another movie that this was in. There's all this little hidden stuff that a person who doesn't know all those details and doesn't spot all that can still watch the movie as it is and go, yeah, that was a cool movie. But the person who is fully invested and who has seen all the movies leading up to it, and maybe has read the background material and knows these characters inside and out, that person gets so much more out of it. And we get that with movies. We understand how that works, and yet we act like, oh, well, I'm just not one of those people. It would take the person who has to do all this stuff. You don't need anything special. It doesn't take special skills. It doesn't take special training and degrees. Like, you don't need special skills to be a comic book nerd and really get into a Marvel movie. You don't need special skills to be a Bible nerd and really get into scripture. It's it just takes, well, start and keep going. And the more you do it, the more interesting and exciting it gets, and the more meaningful it becomes. And this is just, anyone can read the Bible, and everyone should read the Bible. It will open up and just keep revealing more and more to you. And even the things that confuse you and don't make sense, if you want, write that down, like set it aside, but keep going. More stuff comes together. Again, we get that in movies. You get the scene early on that's like, what in the world are they doing? But you let it go, and then later on it comes together, and oh, that's what that was. Like, the Bible does this too. Just let it. Simply read it and simply let it speak. That's all it takes.